Title: The Genius of Claude Shannon. Chapter 1. Introduction to Claude Shannon and their historical significance. Claude Shannon was born in 1916 in Michigan and grew up in a world that was still turning toward the age of radio and early computing. He left an indelible mark on the modern world by uncovering the mathematics of information itself. In a single paper, he showed that the flow of information could be measured in a way that was both precise and universally applicable. This breakthrough laid the foundation for the digital age, for the internet, for cell phones, for satellite communication, for data compression software, and even for modern machine learning. When Shannon appeared at the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, he asked a simple question: how do we quantify the amount of signal that travels from one point to another? Over a decade later, his answer gave engineers a language to design radios that could carry more data more reliably than any previous technology. Shannon's story is both heroic and humble. He loved mathematics and had a habit of turning ordinary objects into a laboratory of thought. One famous anecdote involves Shannon and his brother. They found a bottle of gasoline with a label that asked for 30-60 minutes or 400-600 miles. Shannon calculated that the gasoline was actually 350 miles on a 3-hour trip. He was telling his brother that the label had a simple, yet unexplainable, error. This anecdote captures the way Shannon lived, always looking for the hidden logic in the everyday. That same logic guided him to the secret structure of information and how to harness it. The significance of his work is measured not only in dollars of billions of dollars of technology, but in the way it changed the way we think. Shannon taught us that the world of communication is a vast ocean of numbers, not of words. His core idea that information can be represented in bits, zeros, and ones opened the doorway to all electronic communication. If we imagine every decision we make as a bit, we can choose the best path in real time, reduce uncertainty, and achieve efficiency. That is why many modern entrepreneurs look at Shannon's ideas for guidance when building new products or launching services. He gave them a systematic way to turn chaos into measurable design. The big takeaway from the story of Claude Shannon is this: a single insight, when expressed in precise language, can rewrite the future. In the next chapter, we will dig into the core principles he believed guided not only his academic work, but also his everyday life. These ideas are not only historically significant, but also fully actionable for anyone who wants to become a better thinker, a better creator, and a better leader. Reflective question for the audience: what would your life look like if you could measure everything in terms of information and make decisions based on that metric? Chapter 2. Key Principles and Philosophies of Claude Shannon. Shannon distilled his thinking into a handful of principles that are still relevant. The first principle is the notion of entropy, the measure of uncertainty. He taught that before you can transmit a message, you need to know how much unpredictability it carries. That is the amount of work necessary to send it securely. Think of entropy as a knob that tells you whether a signal is strong or weak and how much noise will disturb it. In modern life, when you face a decision with many variables, you may feel overwhelmed. Shannon would advise to count the possible outcomes. That count is the information you will have. The more possibilities you eliminate, the more you reduce entropy. The second principle is about lossless compression, the idea that information can be made significantly smaller without losing its essence. In business terms, this is similar to identifying redundant processes in a company. In daily life, it means learning to summarize your thoughts in a concise and effective way. Whenever we can reduce the size of a problem, we can solve it faster and more accurately. The third principle is a belief in binary logic. Shannon famously wrote that the world can be represented by a series of zeros and ones. It is not a purely technical viewpoint. It is a philosophy that encourages clear thinking by turning ambiguity into a simple two-state system. When confronted with a choice, he would ask, is it correct or incorrect? Is it present or absent? That binary frame simplifies the mind and produces solutions quickly. Modern entrepreneurs use binary logic when designing systems that must be robust to failure, because a system that can be broken into simple on or off states tends to be easier to test and fix. Finally, Shannon's fourth principle is that every system has a capacity. Just as a telephone line can carry only a finite amount of data, so does a team or an organization have a finite amount of work it can accomplish. Identifying that capacity allows leaders to design the right workload balance. If they overextend employees with too many tasks, the system's bandwidth is saturated. The result is failure. These principles can be translated into actionable steps. In the next chapter, we will show how Shannon actually applied them to his research, his inventions, and his teaching, and how you can adopt the same strategies to solve real problems. Reflective question for the audience. Which of Shannon's principles do you feel is currently the biggest obstacle in your life or organization? Chapter 3. How Claude Shannon applied these principles in their life and work. Shannon's work at Bell Laboratories provides a masterclass of applying his theories to real-world problems. He first turned his attention to noise, the invisible enemy in all communications. By treating noise as a random variable and quantifying its entropy, he was able to set the theoretical limits for signal transmission. That was an act of engineering brilliance. He measured information, measured noise, and then calculated how much data could be sent reliably. The result was the famed Shannon limit. Company leaders can read this story as a lesson in measurement. We often say, we don't know how much work is needed to solve a problem, but Shannon tells us to quantify the data before taking action. When he discovered that information could be compressed, Shannon invented a series of electrical devices that achieved compression by a factor greater than 100. Imagine a company that has massive logs or data streams that are wasted because no one uses them. Shannon compressed them by eliminating repetition and redundancy. His own life was a constant exercise in compression. He was known for distilling complex topics into single paragraphs that were easy to teach. That same clarity is necessary for leaders who must explain intricate product designs to non-technical stakeholders. In his teaching, Shannon turned every lesson into a binary puzzle. He would pose each concept as a question of whether or not something existed. He would use true or false, yes or no, to test students' understanding. The effect is that students learned faster. Today, we can apply his binary teaching approach to coaching by designing a series of checkpoints in a project. Is the milestone met? Is the requirement satisfied? If the answer is no, then we must change the strategy. One more key application was that Shannon had a habit of reducing complex systems to their simplest form. He built early computers entirely from vacuum tubes, but later used transistors to achieve the same outcome in a smaller package. He realized that the system's capacity, in this case the speed and reliability, set the limit, and that to go beyond that you must reduce the complexity, a lesson that resonates with any small business that needs to grow without overexpanding. He always asked, "What is the simplest way do I accomplish X?" This mindset saved him countless hours and created a design thinking paradigm for engineers worldwide. Key takeaway: the core of Shannon's work was measurement. Measure the uncertainty, measure the amount of data, and then measure your resources. Once you can quantify everything, you can plan. And the best part is that these same measurements, entropy, capacity, compression, are applicable in software, marketing, and even daily decision-making. Reflective question for the audience. How could you begin to measure the uncertainty, entropy, in a key decision that you face today? Chapter 4. Practical applications for modern life and business. The ideas of Claude Shannon do not exist only in dusty academic journals. They are practical tools that anyone can use. Below are concrete ways to bring Shannon's wisdom into your life, your team, and your company. 1. Start with data and build dashboards. If you want to improve customer acquisition, you must ask, how many leads are created, how many convert, how many fall? The ratios are the data. This is Shannon's compression principle. You remove noise by focusing only on the conversion data and ignore the rest. A dashboard that updates in real time gives you the binary answer, success or failure, each day. This is a form of measurement that eliminates guesswork. 2. Design with capacity limits in mind. In a startup, you likely have a single product that must grow fast. Use Shannon's capacity idea. Estimate how many customers your infrastructure can support. Do a simple calculation. 10 servers at 10 queries per second each gives you a capacity of 100 queries per second. If you try to exceed this, your system crashes. In the same way, You can measure how many employees can manage a particular function before workload becomes inefficient. If your team works on too many features at once, the quality suffers. Set a clear limit, hire only as needed, or offload tasks to specialized partners. 3. Apply binary thinking to your decision-making. For any large, complex process, think of it as a set of yes-no questions. Is this feature necessary? Can this function be outsourced? Is this expense essential? If an answer is no, remove it. Remove the rest. You create a lean and efficient process like a circuit that is either on or off. In the same way, you could set a binary goal for a personal project. If you finish your workout, reward yourself. If you skip a day, no reward. This creates automatic motivation. 4. Use compression for time management. Instead of juggling a long to-do list, turn it into a 3-item list. The first item is the most critical. The second is the most valuable. The third is a nice-to-have. This is Shannon's compression in the life of a busy executive. You keep the core ideas and compress all other tasks. Your time will become 10 times more efficient. 5. Encourage open data sharing. If you have data on customer usage patterns, you can share it under an open license. That will allow other companies to build upon it, thereby creating a global compression. In this way, companies can achieve faster innovation at a lower cost that was impossible when Shannon's colleagues were in the silent era of data. Take a small step. Publish anonymized dashboards of your app usage. Ask the community to suggest new product features based on that information. The common thread here is measurement. Every choice we make can be expressed as bits. For example, if you have a 24-hour day, you can allocate each hour a binary state, work or rest. When you create a day that is purely zeros and ones, you reduce the mental load. That is how Shannon's theories help to clarify both strategy and execution. Key takeaway: Shannon taught us that all communication is about transferring a finite amount of information and that all systems have a limited capacity. By measuring these 2 key pieces of information, we can design processes that are lean, efficient, and scalable. Whether you want to build the next big startup, lead a team, or simply get more done each day, start by asking yourself, how many bits, how many channels, how many states can I really handle? Use that number to shape your decisions. Reflective question for the audience. If you could shrink one of your ongoing projects to just the essential parts, what would that look like? Chapter 5. Conclusion, and like, share, and subscribe. Claude Shannon was a man who believed that the abstract world of numbers could dictate the rhythm of our lives. By turning uncertainty into a measurable quantity, by compressing ideas into the smallest possible form, by recognizing that all systems have a capacity, and by living in a binary reality, he showed us that the path to innovation is not a stroke of luck. It is a method. Remember that the story we told today is not simply history. It is a living blueprint. It invites you, as an engineer, an entrepreneur, a leader, or a curious individual, to take the lessons and apply them. Start by measuring entropy, compress your thoughts into a single message, stay within your capacity limits, and always think in binary. By doing so, you will transform confusion into clarity, noise into meaning, and your own growth into something that can be quantified and optimized. We have walked through the story of a scientist who built the internet and left a philosophy that can be applied to any domain. If you found this script helpful and inspiring, please take a moment to like the video, share it with the friends who could use a dose of data-driven motivation, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that turn big ideas into everyday actions. Your support allows us to keep providing motivational journeys based on the insights of trailblazers like Claude Shannon. Key takeaway: to be an effective decision maker, you must treat information as something you can measure, compress, and manage. By applying Shannon's insights, entropy, compression, binary logic, and system capacity, you will create powerful systems that transform uncertainty into opportunity. Thank you for listening. Thank you for embracing the data of life. And may your next decision be as clear and quantifiable as a well-crafted packet of information.